And I will kind of paraphrase it and distill it down into like a sentence or two. Like the elevator pitch for the story is basically that Jalen Hurts has been reticent and unwilling to conform to changes that coaches have wanted to make, including Kellen Moore wanting to employ way more motion into the offense. And like Hurts did relent to some degree, but that Jalen Hurts wants to run the offense his way. And that there are numerous instances where the Eagles will go to the line of scrimmage and Hurts will audible to a play that the coaches did not call. And it happens a lot. And apparently people are pissed about it. And maybe this is what has led partially between the rifts with Hurts and his seems to be former best friend in real life, IRL as the kids would say, and teammate A.J. Brown. I have a really strong opinion on this. Let's say that all of this is true. And Hurts is difficult. And Hurts wants to do things his way. And maybe he draws the ire of Nick Sirianni and has drawn the ire of Kevin Patullo. Not that anyone cares. Like Kevin Patullo probably thought as well of in the mother country as the Italian soccer team right now, after the way the Eagles offense went last year. And maybe drew the ire of Kellen Moore and Brian Johnson. Remember him? Coordinating the Eagles offense once upon a time under Nick Sirianni. All of this can be true. And he can be a pain. I have no idea. I'm not there. Here's what I do know. And this is where I feel like we collectively as sports fans like lose sight of what's important. And we can't see the forest through the one tree that's standing in front of us. So the tree right now that's blocking our vision is the wild card loss to San Francisco in January, which the Eagles, and I've said it a million times, unacceptable for the Eagles to lose that game to a severely undermanned Niners team at home. And the article talks about, the final play of the game, which is the ridiculous pass to Dallas Goedert on the fourth down play that ended the season, that they ran 4 verts, it's called, which is 4 receivers all running deep, on the third down play, and then called timeout, and Hurts went to Sirianni and Kevin Patullo and said, let's call 4 verts again. And apparently they all knew it was a bad idea and still ran the play anyway, which, by the way, is terrible coaching. Like, that's not Jalen Hurts' fault. That's Kevin Patullo's fault. And more specifically, it's Nick Sirianni's fault. Like, if you know, the buck stops with Sirianni. This is like if, someone on the show crew has an idea, like, Dan Turner says to me, what would be great if you farted into the microphone for 8 minutes next segment. And I said, you know what, let's, even if I know it's a bad idea, let's do it. And then, I chug a can of baked beans during the break. And I do it. And then I want to blame him? No. The buck stops with Sirianni. That's his responsibility to say, no, we're not doing that. We're going to run a different play. What are we talking about here? Now, the forest that I've referenced, there's 57 trees in the forest. And there's one shining big one, and then there's a second tree that's almost as big. And you can't see through it because you're focused on the San Francisco loss and what happened last season. The 57 trees are the wins that Jalen Hurts has as Eagles quarterback. The second to biggest one is the Super Bowl that he almost won against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, where you can argue he outplayed Mahomes in that Super Bowl, the first one the Eagles played against Kansas City. And the big one, of course, is the Super Bowl that they won last calendar year, where he severely outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. Super Bowl MVP, Jalen Hurts. If I could curse on this show, I would take this opportunity. I don't give a bleep that Jalen Hurts gets up to the line of scrimmage and changes the play. You know what? Coach him better. He did the thing that you pay quarterbacks to do. The most important thing in sports and in the National Football League. He won a championship. He was the MVP of the game. Not 5 years ago, last year. MVP. And now we're going to do this thing where it's like, well, actually, let me tell you why Jalen Hurts is a problem for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't care about any of this. Call a better play. Or you know what? Coach him and actually be like, you can't do this. Like, how about instead of letting the inmates run the asylum, like the guy in charge actually takes charge. You don't want Jalen Hurts changing the plays? Don't let him. Don't let him. It's a coaching problem. That's a coaching problem from Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo and whomever else. Also written in this article, by the way, is that Jalen Hurts is very receptive to new Eagles offensive coordinator Sean Mannion, who's going to come in and run like McVay Shanahan stuff, which is going to be more stuff under center. And it's reported that Hurts doesn't want to do that, but yet in this article that he's going to do it. You know why? Because he's a winner. You think he wants to go out there and lose and look bad and have everyone say this about him when all he does is win? I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm calling it like I see it. To me, this story is a nothing burger. And you know what? If Nick Sirianni doesn't like it and the Eagles don't like it, you know what he could actually do? Coach. Be the boss of the team and not let the quarterback call the shots. 310-840-4910, youtube.com/@thekostos, THEKOSTOS. On the other side, joining me to talk some NFL and college hoops, the great Danny Parkins. First things first on Fox Sports 1 here on a Wednesday. Westwood.